And my sobriety date is 3/12/1999. So do the math. If I do the math, about 9 days from now, I'm 25 years. And to think that this hopeless alcoholic that lived on those streets out there could have ever quit doing what I was doing, it's a miracle. And anybody in here, it's a miracle as well. Um, I came into recovery kicking and screaming, not wanting anything to do with it, but I had no other plan. And I was also given no other option by the courts, thank God. I'm a 5-time convicted felon. And, when I started out in life, I didn't want to grow up and be an alcoholic or drug addict. That was not my goal in life, but I just never fit in. I was always like that square peg trying to go in the round hole. But I noticed that if I disobeyed orders and become rebellious, like a lot of us have that characteristic, I would get attention, even though it wasn't good attention. This is long before, I drank my first drink. And so I don't attribute any of this to hereditary, because neither my brother, my sister, my dad, mother, nobody else is alcoholic in my family. So, yeah, so eventually when I got my first chance to drink, I drank till I passed out. And I vomited like most of us do. And it was so good, let's do it again, right? And I'm the kind of guy that, as time went on, I liked having responsibility less and less and less and less. And I didn't want you telling me what to do at all. So I would go against every grain of what I was told to do in society. And it's your fault. If you just think like me and do like me, everything would be fine. Well, I'm the kind of guy, if I go to a bar, I had to be drunk before I got there. That's the true sign of an alcoholic. When you got to be so drunk, you shouldn't be on the road, but you're going to a bar anyhow. So yeah, I've always had like an alcoholic tendency to use and abuse anything that comes my way, whatever drug it may be. And this went on and went on, and finally, I had a good job. I was doing all right. Um, but then a series of events happened where I just could not stop drinking or drugging, and I couldn't hold down a job anymore. When you stay up all night, and you show up, in the morning, and you can't do anything. And my boss gave me a couple chances, and I just couldn't do it. So eventually, what happens? I just nobody wanted anything to do with me at that point. I don't know if you people know that feeling where your family, you've lied to them so many times, and maybe like me, I'd steal their stuff, and because I knew they wouldn't throw my ass in jail, so I figured they were the best people to abuse. And eventually, nobody, and even the people that I hung out with that did the same kind of things as me, they didn't want anything to do with me either, because I couldn't be trusted around their stuff either. And so this went on for years. I mean, I'm 67 now, so when I got sober, I was 42 years old, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I get locked up in jail. I get out. I promised to show back up for court. I wouldn't show until I got caught. Just gone. And then I get another charge while I'm out there and show up and say I'm going to show up. Finally, they said, you can't get out anymore, Mr. Roloff. Technicality of no bail. In other words, I found out if I had $999,999, technically I could bail out of jail. This guy doesn't have that kind of money, obviously. Um, so they gave me an option. Um, I was sentenced up to a year for probation violations in King County. And they gave me an option. Do you want to go to treatment or do you want to stay in here? Treatment or stay in here? I thought, I'll stay in here. And somewhere at the end of this brochure, it said tobacco products are allowed. And I'm going, wow, tobacco products are allowed. So the reason I got sober is because of tobacco and I don't smoke it anymore. Right. But so, I got into treatment and I was afraid as hell of the future because given every chance to get out and do the right thing, my disease, no matter how bad it is, all I know how to do is drink and drug. I mean, regardless of what happens in my life. And so I'm in treatment. And at some point, I actually said to myself, I'm never going to do drugs again. I want to actually get this thing. It was a few months in. I had about 4 months over when I got into treatment. And I had met in Rocky. I'd met some other people in the program that showed up and brought meetings into where I was at. And I wanted what they had. And I wanted to do what they did to get what they had. And Rocky would show up and he'd have this big book study, and then we'd go line by line, through the big book, everything a question. And he was really dedicated to what he was doing. And I heard his story, and he was like me, similar situation, not me, maybe not lived on the streets or anything, but he abused things like I did. And I thought, well, if he can get it, maybe there's a chance of me getting it. Now, at the time, I think he had like 3.5 years sober, and to me, he was a god, right? Anybody that had done the kind of things that I'd done the things that he had done, and could stay sober for 3.5, whatever, however he did it, let's do it that way. I didn't have any other options. A lot of people say that, oh, I don't know, they wanted to work their program or this or that program. There's kind of a program that I worked called the 1, 2, 3 steps, right, for about a year and a half, to where finally I got locked in a motorhome about a year and a half into recovery, and he made me finish my 4th step, which I did not want to do. Who wants to look at all that crap? But the problem with all that crap is I'm either living with guilt and shame from the past, or I'm in fear of the future, right? So I have a hard time living in today when all those things are happening at once. And the real relief came, I'll back up just a little bit. I relapsed once in treatment. I went out one time downtown to Seattle here and got some heroin, which I know it's a singularly purpose thing, but there's a lot of us out there. And that's when I realized, after I made a decision to never do that again, and I did it, my car just drove down there automatically. It was the weirdest thing ever. I knew I was powerless over this disease. So I knew what true powerlessness is. And I'm kind of grateful that I relapsed that one time, to know that a head full of recovery and relapse was just a miserable event for me. And then, of course, I had to rat myself out to the counselors, and the counselors had to rat me out to my probation officer, and they gave me one more chance, or you go back to jail. So I'll back up to that part of it. But anyway, when I got out of the treatment center, Rocky had been running a meeting for approximately 2 years in there, I believe. And he said, "You're going to take over this meeting when you get out of here." And I'm thinking, you're out of your mind. You want me to go back to the treatment center? I just got out of it, been in there for 6 months, and bring a meeting into there. And I believe that's the reason I stayed sober. One of the many, many reasons, but that was a pretty strong one. That I had some accountability now. That I had to be somewhere every week, and people come up and thank me for running this meeting. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why are they thanking me? I looked at Rocky one day and I said, "What do I have to offer these people?" And he said, "You got something 6 months sober, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "A lot of people like to have that." And that's the first time it ever dawned on me that I had something, that someone else might want in this program. But eventually, I go to a lot of meetings. I was involved in service. Two of the legs were down, but the third one of doing the steps hadn't happened yet. And as much as my life was changing, I don't think I had a spiritual awakening to relieve me of that bondage of fear, that fear of just like 1 second from now, what's going to happen a minute from now. And eventually I did work the steps with Rocky. I got through them. And nothing really happened on the 5th step other than I knew I'd done what I was supposed to do. The real relief and the true blessings of this program came around the 9th step, when I would face the people that I had harmed and make, amends to them. Because, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not the kind of guy that wants to go up and say, 8 years ago I did this, and, I'm going to repay you some money or this and that, or whatever the case may be. But I got around to finally, about 5 years in, writing a long letter and making amends to my father, because of my lifestyle, I didn't make it to his funeral. And my brother looked me in the face when I showed up really late for the funeral, and he was already in the ground. He said, "Really? You can't show up for your own father's funeral?" Just that kind of guilt and that kind of shame just furthers the whole thing of doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to feel the pain of life. I don't want to feel any of that. I don't like those emotions. I don't like the feelings of inadequacy. I don't like the guilt and the shame associated with where my disease takes me. And so I would hear things like, "Keep it simple, stupid." And I said, "Well, I'm a dumbass. I guess this ain't gonna work for me, right?" I heard things like, "Don't get loaded or commit suicide, your first 5 years of recovery, because you'll be killing a complete stranger." So I knew that recovery was a slow process, especially where I had been for so long, being so antisocial and living on the streets for so long. And this wasn't going to be like this thing where, hey, he's got it, right? Rocky's true. If anyone would have put bet odds on me, they would have bet against me getting clean and sober and staying clean and sober. But I knew when I got out of treatment and I got, you know, involved in a program, I had one chance to get this thing. See, I know that most of the people that I hung out with are either in prison or they're dead. I mean, that's just the facts of this disease. So I knew I had one chance to get it. And very few people get it the first time. I didn't think I had a second chance. You know, I thought I got introduced to a God that showed grace and mercy on me, you know, and why me? I don't know. You know, why not the next guy? Why not my wife's brother? Right? I have no idea. I don't get to pick and choose who gets to stay clean and sober. Um, Along the way, you know, I just did what everybody else does around here. I got involved in the service. I did a lot for H&I panels. You know, I go to the treatment centers and people thank me for sharing my experience, strength, and hope. And it gave me hope. Sharing my hope gives other people hope. And my sponsor I got now on the Big Island, it was like my 23rd birthday. He called me Mark 23. I guess in a few days he'll call me Mark 25 for how many years I had. He wanted me to go up and speak at the podium. And I said, well, why? Right? That's how far disconnected from this program I had become. Why do you want me to share? And he says, dummy, it's not about you. It's about them. Right? Because true selfish and self-centered, that is my disease. That's the core of my disease. I'll back up a little bit. Rocky used to give away big books. Anybody couldn't afford one, you know, here, have one, right? So when I took over the meeting, I would buy cases of books, and apparently I came down here and bought them, but I don't remember buying them down here. And I was in the treatment center. I think I was working for Rocky at the time. I was making $7-8 an hour. I wasn't making much, but I had a job. I was not violate probation, and life was pretty good, really. I didn't care. I had a job, which I was proud of the fact I had a job and I could hold one down. And so I would just give out big books. They cost me $5 a piece back then to anybody that wanted one because I knew I was selfish and self-centered. I'd already been a person that all I did was take from people, right? So I had an opportunity to give something, whatever it may be, back to someone else, expecting nothing in return. I knew I had to stay humble in that effect, that I can't expect anything in return for what I'm doing. Do it because it's from the heart, because it's the right thing to do. And I've gone through a whole hell of a lot of things in 25 years. I like to say I got everything I never wanted in this program. I got a wife. She had 3 children. One was a baby. The other was about 2. And the other one was a terror. And she's mellowed out now. But literally raising $3 is not an easy thing to do. But I realize now that God had given me a purpose, right? The purpose is that I can raise children. I can help people out. You know, they were taken away by CPS, and she got them back, and she did a whole hell of a lot of things. You know, she touched on it a little bit up here, but I can tell you she went through a lot of hoops to get those children back. And you know, everybody that I knew they had to change people, places, and things. So I couldn't talk to anybody I knew from the past. If they would call me or they would try to get a hold of me, I would ignore them because I know what they're doing and I know what I don't want to be doing. And so I had to find something to fill in that gap because the old life was just surrounded around what I'm doing. So I need to have a new life that's doing something the other direction. So we went to shitloads of meetings. We probably did, I don't know, in the beginning, 3-4 meetings a day, right? And we'd hear like one word would come off somebody's lip and I go, that's the thing. That's the thing that's the solution. That's the answer. And I may not remember that 10 seconds from now, but it was the one thing I needed to hear during that meeting that gave me hope or got me through another day. Pretty early on, the whole obsession to drink and drug went away. And I'm fortunate in that I don't fight that part of my disease anymore. I don't fight waking up just wanting, you know, everything will be worse, nothing will be better if I ever drink or drug again. That's just a fact. You know, I don't think I'll last very long anyway. But yeah, it's been a long road. And Rocky said, hey, why don't you come up and share your experience, strength, and hope? And, you know, I'm actually fairly comfortable up here because a lot of you people are just like me. You know, we share a lot of things in common as far as, you know, we don't come here on a winning streak. And I don't think everybody has to lose their house, their job, their car, live on the streets for years, rack up felonies. It's not necessary to go that far into your disease. But that's what it took for me. It took me realizing that I got one chance to get this thing. And the only thing I've really done perfectly in this program is not pick up and get loaded. In reality, that's the one thing I've done perfectly. Um, but I think the people that come before me, I think Rocky. I think Rocky's got 29 years now. Um, he sponsored a lot of people, and very few of them have stayed sober. And it's not that a lack of him trying. It's just this disease is so damn powerful. And any of you that's been in here a while see people coming and going all the time. And one of the things that why I picked Rocky as a sponsor is because I saw a lot of people the 30, 60-day, 90-day people, and they go back out. And of course, when they come back in, it was no better when they went back out. Um, but I had to follow in the footsteps of somebody that had some time behind them. I didn't want to find, a sponsor that got 6 months, because I managed to get 6 months between being in jail and being in treatment for a while. I had 6 months there. Um, and all that was involved in me staying sober was just getting off, the drugs and alcohol. Then in theory, once I get out of jail for 4 months, I should be good to go, right? Never the case. Never the case at all. So, my mom, she passed away a while ago, and she got to see me sober, and she helped out my wife and I and the children more than one could possibly. I couldn't even believe that someone would do that after what I'd done to her. And my brother has that kind of unconditional love. He's been helping out a lot lately with us on a few things. And I don't know how close I am to 30 minutes. Oh, I'll go what it's like to have a program for 10 years where you're not working a program. Let's go there. What it's like, what happened, and what it's like now, and then what happens when you get away from this program. Let's try that one. Try dry drunk for 10 years. Try not going to meetings for 10 years. Try not praying to God for 10 years. Try having people that want to even be around you, being that kind of person, and then not even realizing you've become that person again. See, chink by chink, that spiritual armor goes away. Chink by chink, I'm not around people in recovery. Chink by chink, I'm not doing God's work. I'm becoming shorter and shorter with people around me. The resentment start coming back. All the things that create the spiritual disease we have, this malady that keeps me from just being calm and at peace and being happy with who I am inside, right? And at the end of it all, she had filed for divorce. I was at a place called South Point on the Big Island of Hawaii, just wanting to commit suicide. I saw no other option. I didn't want to get loaded, but suicide sounded like a good option. And I knew when she got back in the program, I had to find a sponsor. I had to go through these steps again. Desperate people do desperate things. And I wasn't sure it was going to work again. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure going through the program again was going to work. And like halfway through my fourth step, and I wanted to be thorough about the damn thing, I was going through a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. They say that pain is a touchstone for all spiritual development. Well, I was in a world of hurt. I had really blown things up bad. She'll take credit for her end of it, but I got to take credit for my end of it. And after I finished the second column, I laid back and I said, "Do you want anything more out of me, God?" And this sense of peace and love and joy that I've never experienced in my life, the whole 23 years of recovery, I'd never experienced that kind of spiritual awakening. Everything was vibrant. The bushes were vibrant. I'm on the phone with her because I can't get a hold of my sponsor in the mainland, named Tom. Rocky knows Tom. And I can't get a hold of my sponsor on the island. So I get a hold of my wife, and I'm telling her what I'm experiencing. She says, "You're having a stroke or something." I go, "No, this ain't a stroke. This is not a stroke. This is a spiritual awakening." She goes, "No, it's a spiritual blockage or something." I go, No, you don't understand. I'm holding nothing against anything anybody's done for me. I don't feel any it was the weirdest thing to have that deep and effectual contact with God that I guess he just decided that, hey, you're at a point, you're in so much pain, and life's got so shitty that I'm going to do what I always have done for you, show you grace and mercy, and relieve you of that bondage of being, I don't know what you would call it, the darkness that just surrounded me. I was just surrounded. And you heard a lot from people where they hit the jump off point in recovery, when they're sober. It happened to me, and it's part of my story. Um, and then another person was sharing in a meeting once, and she said, "Well, it's pretty amazing you got that kind of time." And I take it for granted. I mean, I really do. Um, it's unfortunate I take it for granted, but I do. But she says, you made it through the drought years. And it never occurred to me, there's a lot of years that go on if you have any long term sobriety where things just don't seem to go your way. You don't have the right jobs, the situations aren't right, maybe your children aren't obeying you, whatever. You know, to have the courage to go through life and not drink or drug is an amazing thing. And I don't do it perfect, I don't even do it all that well, but I don't beat myself up too much about not accomplishing some things in life because I've accomplished a whole lot of other things in life. I mean, it says in the big book, nothing happens in God's world by accident. So if I'm going through something bad, it's God's plan for me. I got to understand that the only way you can stand on a mountaintop is if you're down in the valley sometimes where people don't like hanging out. People like me don't like hanging out in the valley. But it's the drought or the valley or whatever you want to call it that lets me appreciate when things are just good. Things are really good right now. We just went to San Diego, Santa Barbara, met her. I got two grandkids now. Well, technically three, but two that we had down at um, Disneyland for their fourth and sixth birthday. And I get to be a father. I get to be a husband. I get to be a grandfather. I get to be all the things I never wanted in life. Because I didn't like children. Who would want children? They just got in the way. And so I'm glad that you guys gave me a half hour to be up on the podium. I'm sure I'm running up close to it. But what I found is when I'm in recovery and I'm working a program and I'm trying to help other people out, my life up here is so much better than when I don't. And the big problem is I always try to go back to this, like, oh, I don't have to be around you people anymore, right? I don't have to do these meetings. I don't have to speak. I don't have to be a service. Got it, right? The got it syndrome. And I don't got it, And when I really look about it, the big book, they talk about the first 100 people saying they know only a little. Well, if they knew only a little, I know like that much. But through some miracle grace by my higher power, which I got to give credit to, and some willingness on my behalf, um, I'm not the person I used to be. None of you want to be around the person I used to be because you couldn't be. I couldn't be trusted with anything. I mean, I didn't care if I got knocked out or punched or whatever. I'd steal your wallet. It's just a common petty criminal towards the end. And I don't think any of us grew up in this world in school dazing off, thinking, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be a petty criminal, right? I'm going to be strung out. I'm going to live on the streets of Seattle. And haven't been there in 25 years, so it's a miracle. So thanks, everybody, for listening to me. Hopefully you got something out of it. And the one thing I think probably most people have a little bit of time around here, looking around. You don't get gray unless you actually get sober at some point. But I like to tell people it gets better because it does get better. That first year or two was a bitch. At least it was for me, because everything is different. Um, and so I just have to follow in the footsteps of what other people did and say, "Hey, I'm afraid today," or "What do I do about this?" I have to understand that I don't have the solution. Somebody else probably will have it for me. And so, thanks for allowing me to come up here. But I can't thank this man enough. Every once in a while, I'll hear somebody talk ill about Rocky, right? And I'm thinking, and it brings me to tears. It really does, because he helped save my life. When you understand that, not a monetary thing, not an ego thing, nothing, just the desire to help out another alcoholic get another day clean, right? Because that's what this thing's all about. So, yeah, I'm running up on time. I can see I am. But I appreciate you guys allowing me to share. Like I said, hopefully you got something out of it. I do it I've done it quite a few times, you know, in treatment centers, but not so much in a hall with people like this. But um, I'd just like to give everybody here that helped me, whether you knew it or not, give you the kudos, because left on my own devices, I would not be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well,